I don't think I'm alone in saying that the Treehouse of Horror is one of the greatest episodes of The Simpsons of all time, and also just one of the greatest TV episodes of anything ever. It's absolutely fantastic. This aired, interestingly, in November of 1991. I would have just assumed that it was a Halloween special, and it kind of is, but I just would have assumed it would have aired, kind of Halloween week. It still aired at the right time of the year, but I'm watching this or rewatching this in April. So I think it's pretty great no matter what day it is. This is the third episode of the second season. And this one is directed by Wesley Archer, Rich Moore, and David Silverman. And there are two great things about this. The first is the structure of the narrative, because we have stories within a story. It's Halloween, Homer is being trick-or-treating, Lisa and Bart are telling each other scary stories with Maggie in the treehouse, of course, giving the name the Treehouse of Horror. But also the animation is brilliant. The Simpsons animation is usually pretty awesome, but this one gives us different kinds of animation styles, and the bleeding walls. All I will say is I think the bleeding walls look absolutely incredible, or the kitchen cabinets, they just look amazing. So the animation style itself is fantastic, the narrative structure is brilliant. As I said, Lisa and Bart are telling each other scary stories, and we have three main segments. We have Bad Dream House, and then Hungry Are the Damned, and then The Raven. I will talk about each of them in turn without giving any spoilers, but I just want to say The Raven is the most incredible version of The Raven that I have ever seen. I don't think anybody could ever either do a reading of The Raven or an interpretation of The Raven that would beat the one in the Treehouse of Horror. So Bad Dream House, the Simpsons move into this 18-bedroom home that very instantly turns on them. It's a little bit ironic to begin with that they don't quite realise, but then they kind of realise that this house maybe has a mind of its own and starts to do all of these really elaborate things to try and drive the family out. I won't say in any detail what these things are, but I do think it's fantastic. It's very funny. And this is the segment with the bleeding walls and the bleeding kitchen. I just think it looks incredible. The animation is absolutely beautiful. The way that this episode resolved itself, this segment, I found to be very funny. Very, very funny indeed. The second segment, Hungry Are the Damned, I loved, but I will say that these aliens do crop up, certainly in multiple other Treehouse of Horror episodes. I'm not sure if they're in every single one, but I do kind of tire of them eventually. That's no fault of this episode. That is, of course, episodes down the line. In this episode, these beings from another planet capture the Simpsons and start to feed them. And they feed them a lot. And why they're doing this, well, I won't say. But I thoroughly enjoyed this episode. I think the animation was lovely. The design of the aliens, I think, is perfect. It's kind of very stereotypical of what we might expect an alien to look like. They have the large kind of bulbous bodies and the individual eyes and the sharp fang teeth, and interestingly they're wearing space helmets, but the Simpsons aren't. I guess if they're in the Simpsons' own atmosphere, they wouldn't need to wear helmets, but they would. I don't know. I really like the design of them. I think it's very effective and pretty awesome. The way this episode resolved itself, yet again, I thought was a fantastic little message and really entertaining. I really enjoyed Hungry Are the Damned, but these creatures, these aliens, they do keep occurring, and I do get tired of them eventually. But within this episode, I love. And the Raven. Quoth the Raven, nevermore. Oh, I totally messed that line up, didn't I? Quoth the Raven, nevermore. Obviously, Lisa is telling Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven, which is definitely, I'd say, his greatest work ever. He has some others that I absolutely love, but certainly it's his most famous, and it's beautiful. It's absolutely exquisite. There's nothing about this that doesn't work. The visual quality is great. Having Homer at the helm in this one was really interesting. I absolutely loved it. The way it was narrated, the pacing of it, it's just exquisite. It's stunning. It's thrilling. It makes your own heart race, and I absolutely love it. And I have never heard a retelling of this that's as good. It's narrated by James Earl Jones, and it's just perfection. The narration is perfection. The voice of the house, and also one of the alien creatures, is Harry Shearer, who of course does a fantastic job. So they definitely picked the right voices for these segments. Everything just works brilliantly. The narrative structure flows gorgeously from one segment to the next, with Bart and Lisa talking to each other primarily. The fact that it opens with Marge saying that, this episode is a little bit scarier than usual, tuck your kids up, instead of writing to us the next day. It's brilliant. It's absolute perfection. If any TV series, mainly animated, but not necessarily, are looking to do a Halloween spooky themed special, this is the blueprint on how to do it expertly. Treehouse of Horror is without a doubt one of the most beautifully crafted episodes of The Simpsons ever.